Of course, my office has received multiple emails, calls, dozens really, requesting property relief. There's almost a desperation in the voices of the constituents that are calling us. At our budget planning session, I brought up concerns about District 6 residents, specifically that District 6 has the most single-family homesteads, but we were in the bottom 4 for homestead exemptions. I know that there's a number of reasons for that, but we're also number 8 in seniors signed up for exemptions. So I asked for funds to be allocated for outreach to inform homeowners, homestead owners, seniors, those with special needs to apply for these exemptions. Have y'all looked into this? Do you know what steps we need to take to ensure that communication is happening?
Yes, council member, we would be doing that as part of the proposed budget.
Okay, so there's
process.
money allocated specifically for outreach?
Yes. No, there's not money, but we would be doing it as part of the proposed budget outreach.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to get maybe a little more information on that as we move forward. So I strongly support the property tax relief. I support the 10% homestead exemption. I'm curious, though, Troy, I think you mentioned there were 240,000 homes that would be affected. Can you tell me who is that typically, those 240,000 homesteads?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
You mentioned that there were 240,000 homes that would be, or households that would be affected by a 10%.
There's roughly, out of the residences in San Antonio, there's 240,000 that actually have a homestead on them. So it's 240,000 that actually have registered homesteads would actually be the beneficiary of the 10%.
I see.
Homestead.
Okay, so that's currently who is has applied and received the exemptions. That would be the increase or the amount for them. So I guess back to my original question, we would need to figure out how to increase the 240,000 homes that currently take advantage of the exemption, correct?
That's correct. In the event that they are eligible for a homestead exemption and they use that as their primary residence and they do not currently have a homestead on it, then that outreach would benefit them.
Okay. And I'm just curious, why not go for 20% if that's our max?
We looked at that as part of our modeling, the 20%. As I mentioned, our goals were kind of focused on homestead relief, but also balanced relief amongst all property holders. So when we went to 20%, the way it impacts the tax rate is it moves the tax rate up almost equivalent to what the tax rate is today. And so that would not be providing any relief to commercial account holders or multifamily. And so we thought this was a balance and a compromise to provide tax relief across all property while focusing on homesteads.
Okay, thank you. You presented an optimistic budget for 2023, I think for good reason. There's solid indicators we're on a strong road to recovery, so that's encouraging. I think that we're always advocating for not just listening to our community, but taking that action. So I think that's a response really to, the homestead exemption is a response to our community members. That said, last week we had a meeting with members of the community who are working on houselessness. I learned that we're 28,000 units short of what we need for people to have safe, affordable housing in the city. And the housing bond, of course, that was approved by voters this past weekend will help in a lot of important ways. But I don't want to use that to just check the box and say we're working on it and kind of leave it at that. So I think there's a lot more to be done. 28,000 is a big number, but I think it's a workable number. I mean, maybe you guys have an opinion on that, but our community has a lot of ideas and solutions, and the budget outlook, I think, is prime for us doing better. We can also do better for our small businesses. I'd like to see funding go towards a snapshot of small businesses throughout the city. I don't think that we can do adequate outreach if we don't know who we're trying to help, where they are, what they need, and so I'd like to do a little bit better snapshot of our small businesses. I have a couple of questions about well, one, Justina, I think it was slide 30 or 31. You went over the new funding, the funding that's used towards kind of new positions or newer additions to the budget since our goal setting session. Is that correct?
On slide 31?
I think it was 30, 31, 32.
Right. So
there were 2 or 3 slides.
Right. We did 3 slides, and these are the improvements that
okay.
we are incorporated into the trial budget. Some of these do have positions associated with them, not all of them though. But these would be new positions.
So I didn't see the fire department, the two trainers and the physical therapists. Is that still being considered, or?
Good afternoon, Councilwoman,
Hi,
and
María.
I'll ask Chief Hood to come up if he wants to incorporate additional feedback. But one of the things that we're looking at is we're going to bring this to council in the next 30, 45 days, is to do a contract, to contract those positions, to give us
Okay.
more flexibility at the wellness center, not only to have the trainer and the therapist provide services to our employees, but when they are city employees and they have to take time off, then there's a gap of those services. By having them contracted out, then that gives us flexibility to have the service provided all year round, as the contract will provide for backup if the employee takes time off. So that's what we are doing with existing funding in the current fiscal year.
Okay, it's existing funding then?
Yes, ma'am.
And it'll be for one physical therapist and then 2 trainers, is that correct?
I'm going to ask Chief just
Okay,
to clarify
yes,
the
yes, ma'am.
title.
Hi, Chief.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I love the purple.
Thank you.
And what Maria explained, basically, we're looking at a plan to contract out to where we're going to get the resources that we need 24/7, 365. So that's the plan right now, to provide 2 physical therapists and also look at some psychological services that we can provide.
Oh, great. Wonderful, thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you.
We, as you know, our Public Safety Committee went and toured the wellness facility, and we saw a lot of firefighters there being trained and undergoing physical therapy. So it's nice for them to have a place to go as opposed to sometimes a private provider. So I'm really excited about the contract because that means it's continuous care,
Absolutely,
no gaps,
because there
like
was
you said.
always a gap if someone was off on maternity
Sure.
leave, injured, vacation, things like that.
it, okay.
So we figure this will be more efficient.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And
Innovative.
Councilman, we need to, part of this is also making sure, because there's a proven program at the fire department, but how do we make it convenient and usable by the employees of solid waste or public works or, a variety of other, so there's some additional work we need to do through the summer.
Thank you. Similar to, this might be for Maria, but is there a similar study for our fire department like we've done for citywide police officer needs?
Councilwoman, that is something that was requested by Public Safety Committee, and we are working on that.
Okay.
The police department offers wellness programs for the police officers. They're not the same as we have in the fire department, so we're looking at those options to bring some recommendations as part of the proposed budget.
Okay, thank you. I just want to go over a couple of other things. The pre-K and health insurance, of course, are vital. I'm impressed by pre-K's new model to increase training for small businesses focused on childcare. I want to make sure that we're helping them out and funding them as much as we can. And of course, continuing to protect our youth. We can't forget our foster youth. We talked about housing, permanent supportive housing, and that's one of my priorities as well, specifically for foster youth aging out of the system, and then foster youth at children without placement that are right now living in hotels, and the system is very taxed right now. So I think those are all my comments. Thank you, Mayor.